The shock on Amanda's face when I said, "Honey, this is my house," was something I never thought I'd see. My own daughter-in-law, standing there with my grandson in her arms, had just finished explaining why I needed to move out of my home of 30 years. For the baby's sake, she claimed. For peace and quiet. But the smirk that had played across her lips seconds earlier vanished instantly. That was the moment everything changed between us, and the beginning of a battle I never saw coming. I never expected to find myself in this situation at 65 years old. After running my own construction company for nearly 40 years, retirement should have been peaceful. My wife Martha passed away 5 years ago from cancer, leaving me alone in the beautiful 2-story colonial home we'd built together with my own hands 3 decades ago. Every inch of this house contains memories of our life together. From the hand-carved banister to the custom kitchen cabinets I spent months perfecting. My son Jason is our only child. He's 32 now, and watching him grow into a responsible man has been my greatest joy. He works in advertising, or at least he did, until his company went through downsizing last year. Jason met Amanda 3 years ago at a friend's wedding. She was 29, beautiful, with a marketing degree and a charming way about her. They dated for a year before getting engaged, and the wedding was small but lovely. I was genuinely happy for them. Amanda seemed perfect for Jason, always attentive when we got together for dinners, asking thoughtful questions about Martha and our life together. She even framed a photo of Martha for me one Christmas, telling me how much she wished she could have met her. It touched my heart deeply. When Jason lost his job, they were already expecting their first child. The timing couldn't have been worse. They had a small apartment downtown with steep rent, and Jason was stressed about providing for his growing family. It was my suggestion that they move in with me temporarily. The house has 4 bedrooms, plenty of space, and I thought it would give them time to save money while Jason looked for a new position. "Dad, are you sure?" Jason had asked when I made the offer. "We don't want to impose." "Son, this house is too big for just me anyway," I'd told him. "Besides, I want to be close to my grandchild." Amanda had hugged me tightly. "Donnie, you're a lifesaver," she'd said, her eyes sparkling with what I thought was gratitude. "We promise it won't be for long." They moved in 2 months before the baby was due. Those first weeks were harmonious. Amanda transformed the kitchen with her cooking skills, preparing family dinners every night. We'd sit together in the living room watching old movies, and she'd ask me to tell stories about Jason's childhood. I felt like I was gaining a daughter rather than losing my solitude. When baby Emma arrived, the joy I felt holding my granddaughter for the first time was indescribable. She had Jason's eyes and a full head of dark hair. I instantly fell in love with her. Having a baby in the house brought it to life again, in ways I hadn't experienced since Jason was little. I helped whenever I could. When Amanda was exhausted from feeding, I'd take midnight shifts walking Emma around the house, singing the same lullabies I used to sing to Jason. I changed diapers, heated bottles, and rocked Emma for hours. Amanda seemed grateful for the help, often thanking me for giving her a chance to nap or shower. "You're a natural, Donnie," she'd say, watching me with Emma. She already adores her grandpa. Emma and I developed a special bond. She would calm instantly in my arms, and her first real smile was during one of our early morning conversations when everyone else was asleep. Those moments felt sacred to me, a connection to the future of our family. When Emma turned 2 months old, we had a small celebration dinner. I grilled steaks, Amanda made her famous potato salad, and we even had a tiny cupcake with a candle for Emma, though of course she couldn't eat it yet. The evening had been perfect until Amanda cleared her throat as we finished dessert. "Jason and I were thinking we should talk about living arrangements," she said, her voice suddenly taking on a cool, businesslike tone I'd never heard her use before. Jason looked slightly confused. "We were?" Amanda gave him a sharp look before continuing. "Emma needs a proper nursery, and the guest room isn't cutting it. Plus, a baby needs certain routines. I'm happy to help set up a better nursery," I offered. "We could convert my office if you need more space." Amanda smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "That's thoughtful, Donnie, but we might need to think about something more substantial." The way she emphasized that last word sent a chill through me. It was the first hint that something had shifted, though I couldn't have imagined just how dramatically things would change from that moment on. The changes began subtly. Amanda started complaining about noise whenever I moved around the house in the morning. I'd always been an early riser, up at 5:30 to make coffee and read the paper. It was a routine I'd followed for decades. "Donnie, "Could you please not use the coffee grinder so early?" Amanda asked one morning, appearing in the kitchen doorway with Emma in her arms. "Your footsteps on the stairs woke the baby, and she just spent an hour crying." "I'm sorry about that," I said, genuinely apologetic. "I'll be more careful." I started tiptoeing around my own home, wearing slippers instead of my regular shoes, and switched to instant coffee to avoid the grinder noise. But the complaints continued. One day, I came home from grocery shopping to find my living room completely rearranged. The leather recliner Martha had given me for our 25th anniversary was gone, replaced by a pastel-colored nursing chair. Family photos had been moved, and the coffee table where I kept my magazines was now in the garage. "Amanda, what happened to the living room?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Oh, I reorganized a bit," she said casually. "The old setup wasn't safe for Emma once she starts crawling. That recliner took up too much space, and the coffee table had sharp corners. But that recliner was special to me," I said. "Martha gave it to me." "It's in the basement," she replied without looking up from her phone. "You can still use it down there if you want." I went downstairs and found my recliner pushed against a wall, covered with old blankets. It felt symbolic somehow, like my place in the household was being relegated to storage as well. When Jason was home, Amanda was all smiles and sweetness. But when he left for job interviews or networking events, her demeanor changed completely. She became curt, dismissive, often acting as though my presence was an inconvenience. One afternoon, Amanda's friend Brittany came over for coffee. I was in my bedroom but had left the door open as I organized some old photographs. Their voices carried clearly up the stairwell. "So how much longer are you stuck with the old man situation?" Brittany asked. Amanda sighed loudly. "Too long. Jason is being ridiculous about it. He keeps saying we need to respect his dad's space, but this house is massive. We could do so much with it if it was just ours." "Can't you just talk to Donnie directly?" Brittany suggested. "I'm working on it," Amanda replied, "but I have to be careful. Jason is still sensitive about his mom, and Donnie plays that card whenever he can." I sat frozen, the photo album open on my lap to a picture of Jason's 5th birthday. Martha was smiling beside him as he blew out candles. The conversation downstairs continued, but I couldn't bear to hear more. That weekend, I visited my younger brother Frank for lunch. We met at his favorite diner, and after catching up on his grandchildren's latest achievements, I found myself confiding in him about the situation at home. "Be careful, Donnie," Frank warned after listening to my concerns. "I've seen this before with my buddy Walt." His son's wife moved in after their wedding, and 2 years later, Walt was living in a tiny apartment while they had his house. "Amanda wouldn't go that far," I said, though with less confidence than I would have had a month earlier. "Just watch yourself," Frank insisted. "Make sure everything's clear about whose house it is." I decided to try smoothing things over by being extra helpful. I bought an expensive baby swing that Amanda had mentioned wanting, along with a state-of-the-art baby monitor and several other items for Emma. Amanda accepted them without so much as a thank you, immediately installing them where she wanted. Over the following weeks, I noticed more and more of my belongings being relocated to the garage, basement, or attic. My books disappeared from shelves, replaced by parenting guides and decorative items Amanda had ordered online. The wall of family photos in the hallway, many featuring Martha, was taken down to make room for a gallery of professional photos of Emma. Jason was working longer hours, picking up freelance projects, while still hunting for a full-time position. He seemed oblivious to the growing tension, and whenever he was home, Amanda ensured they spent time as a nuclear family, often suggesting they needed private family dinners or parent bonding time with Emma. I found myself feeling increasingly uncomfortable in my own home, retreating to my bedroom more and more frequently. It had become the only space that still felt like mine, though even there I could sense my territory shrinking as baby supplies began appearing in my ensuite bathroom, and Emma's portable crib occasionally ended up against my wall. One Tuesday morning, I returned early from a doctor's appointment to find unfamiliar voices in the house. Entering quietly through the side door, I overheard Amanda giving what sounded like a tour. "So this would all come down," she was saying as I approached the living room. "We'd open up this whole space, update the kitchen with marble countertops, and convert the dining room into a playroom for Emma." I rounded the corner to find Amanda standing with an older couple I recognized as her parents, who I'd met only twice before. Her father was nodding appreciatively while her mother was taking photos of my living room. "And upstairs?" her father asked. The master bedroom is huge, Amanda replied enthusiastically. Once it's ours, we can finally have the ensuite remodeled. That shower is straight out of the 80s. I cleared my throat, and all three turned toward me with startled expressions. Oh, Donnie. Amanda recovered quickly. You're home early. I was just showing my parents the house. They haven't had a chance to see it properly before. I see, I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. And you're planning renovations? Just dreaming a little, she said with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. You know how it is. But I knew exactly what it was. Amanda wasn't just dreaming. She was planning for a future where this house was hers, and I was nowhere in the picture. As autumn turned to winter, the atmosphere in the house grew increasingly tense. Amanda initiated a new complaint that my television was disturbing Emma, despite my bedroom being on the opposite side of the house from the nursery they'd set up. The sound carries, Donnie, she insisted when I pointed this out. Babies have very sensitive hearing. I invested in wireless headphones and started watching my evening programs in silence, the house around me growing quieter as my presence was systematically muted. My longtime friend Tom came to visit one Saturday. We'd worked together for 20 years before retirement and still met regularly for fishing trips. Amanda barely acknowledged his arrival, giving him a cold nod before disappearing upstairs with Emma. Is it just me, or did I get the cold shoulder? Tom asked as we settled in the kitchen. It's not just you, I admitted. Things have been strained around here lately. When Tom left 3 hours later, Amanda emerged from upstairs, her expression disapproving. Your friend was very loud, she said. Emma couldn't nap with all that laughing and talking. We were just catching up, I explained. I haven't seen Tom in weeks. Well, maybe next time you could meet him somewhere else, she suggested, though her tone made it clear this wasn't a suggestion but an expectation. The following day, I decided to address the situation directly. I waited until Jason had left for a networking event and approached Amanda as she folded laundry in the living room. Amanda, I feel like something's changed between us, I began carefully. If I've done something to upset you, I'd like to know what it is so I can make it right. Her expression immediately hardened. I don't know what you're talking about. You've been moving my things, complaining about noise, making me feel unwelcome in my own home, I continued, keeping my voice gentle but firm. That's not how family treats each other. Amanda's eyes suddenly welled with tears. How dare you accuse me like this? I'm just trying to create a safe, calm environment for my daughter. Her sudden shift to tears caught me off guard, and I raised my hands in a placating gesture. I'm not accusing you of anything. I just want us to communicate better. But the damage was done. When Jason came home that evening, Amanda met him at the door in tears, claiming I had yelled at her and made accusations while she was alone with the baby. Jason came to my room later, his expression troubled. Dad, what happened with Amanda today? I tried to talk to her about some concerns I have, I explained. I didn't yell or accuse her of anything. Jason sighed, running a hand through his hair. She says you implied she's trying to push you out of your own house. Dad, you know that's not true. She's just stressed with the baby, and her hormones are still adjusting. The doctor says postpartum anxiety can last for months. Jason, I think there's more going on than you realize, I tried to explain, but he cut me off. Dad, please, we're all under pressure right now. I'm still job hunting. Amanda's adjusting to motherhood. You're adjusting to having a full house again. Can you just try a little harder with her? For me? For Emma? Looking at my son's pleading expression, I nodded reluctantly. Of course, son. I'll try harder. Over the next few weeks, I made several attempts to speak with Jason privately about Amanda's behavior, but we were always interrupted. Either Amanda would appear with a question that needed immediate attention, or Emma would start crying, or Jason would get a call about a potential job opportunity. It began to feel deliberate, as though Amanda was ensuring we never had enough time alone for a real conversation. The situation continued to deteriorate. Amanda began excluding me from family meals, claiming Emma needed quiet feeding time in the evening, which somehow required the dining room to be occupied for hours. I took to eating sandwiches in my room or waiting until everyone was in bed before heating up leftovers. One afternoon I came downstairs to find all the photos of Martha removed from the living room walls. The wedding portrait that had hung over the fireplace for decades, the beach photo from our 20th anniversary trip, even the small framed picture of her in the entryway, were all gone, replaced with abstract art and photos of Emma. Amanda, where are the pictures of Martha? I asked when I found her in the kitchen. "Oh, I put them in storage," she said casually. "We needed to update the decor a bit. Those old frames were collecting dust and weren't great for Emma's allergies." "Emma has allergies to picture frames?" I couldn't keep the skepticism from my voice. "Dust allergies," Amanda corrected smoothly. "The pediatrician says we need to be careful about potential triggers." I knew this was a lie. Emma had no diagnosed allergies, and the frames had been dusted weekly as part of my regular cleaning routine. But arguing seemed pointless. Amanda's mother, Stephanie, began visiting frequently, sometimes staying for days at a time. She treated the house as if it belonged to Amanda, rearranging kitchen cabinets and criticizing everything from the garden layout to the color of the guest bathroom towels. "This place has such potential," I overheard her telling Amanda. "Once you have full control over the decorating, you can finally bring it into this century." I felt like a stranger in my own home, an unwelcome guest whose presence was barely tolerated. I started spending more time at the local senior center, attending coffee mornings and card games just to escape the hostile atmosphere at home. It was during one such escape that I made a discovery that confirmed my worst fears. Returning home unexpectedly because I'd forgotten my wallet, I found blueprints spread across the kitchen table. Amanda and her mother were bent over them, pointing and discussing excitedly. "So the wall between these bedrooms comes down completely?" Stephanie asked, pointing to what I recognized as the upstairs layout. "Yes, and Donnie's room becomes the extended nursery," Amanda replied. "The contractor says we can start in 3 months if we put down a deposit now." "What about Donnie?" Stephanie asked, lowering her voice slightly. Amanda shrugged. "Jason's already warming up to the idea of finding him a nice senior apartment. I've been planting the seeds for weeks." I backed away silently, my heart pounding. The blueprints had been dated for 3 months in the future, with my bedroom clearly marked for demolition to expand the nursery. This wasn't just about making me feel unwelcome. This was a coordinated plan to remove me from my own home. The senior center became my sanctuary as tensions escalated at home. It was there I met Carol, a warm, insightful woman in her early 60s who had recently retired from a career in family therapy. We began chatting over coffee one morning, and something about her calm presence made it easy to open up. "It sounds like a difficult situation," she said after I shared some of what was happening. "Have you considered that your daughter-in-law might be deliberately trying to edge you out?" "I've suspected it," I admitted, "but it seems so calculated, so cold, and she's completely different when Jason is around." Carol nodded thoughtfully. "Unfortunately, I've seen this dynamic before. Some people are very skilled at presenting different faces to different people. Your son only sees what she wants him to see." "What should I do?" I asked. "I don't want to come between them or risk losing access to my granddaughter." "You need to stand up for yourself," Carol advised. "Clearly and calmly establish boundaries. Document what's happening. And most importantly, find a way to have an honest conversation with your son without her interference." Taking Carol's advice to heart, I tried to assert myself more at home, but Amanda escalated her tactics in response. She began accidentally waking me in the middle of the night by turning the baby monitor up to maximum volume near my bedroom door, claiming later that she'd forgotten it there. Jason was now working 6 or 7 days a week, taking on multiple freelance projects to build his portfolio while still searching for a permanent position. He was barely home, leaving before dawn and returning after Emma was asleep. The few times I managed to start a conversation about the household tension, he looked so exhausted that I couldn't bring myself to add to his burdens. Amanda's campaign to limit my time with Emma intensified. Whenever I tried to hold the baby or spend time with her, Amanda would suddenly remember a doctor's appointment, decide Emma needed a nap, or claim she was overdue for a feeding. The special bond I'd formed with my granddaughter during those early weeks was being systematically severed. One afternoon, while picking up a prescription at the local pharmacy, I ran into my neighbor Judy, who looked surprised to see me. "Donnie, how are you feeling?" she asked, with exaggerated concern. "Amanda mentioned you've been having some memory issues lately." I stared at her, confused. "Memory issues? What are you talking about?" Judy looked uncomfortable. "Oh, I'm sorry. She told several of us at the neighborhood watch meeting that you've been getting confused, misplacing things, forgetting conversations. She mentioned you might need specialized care soon." The realization that Amanda had been spreading falsehoods about my mental state throughout the neighborhood hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just about making me uncomfortable in my home anymore. She was actively working to discredit me, creating a narrative that would justify removing me from my house entirely. That night, I took an unprecedented step. I set up my old digital recorder in the living room before going to bed, hoping to capture evidence of Amanda's behavior when Jason wasn't around. I felt guilty about the deception, but I was becoming desperate to make my son see what was happening. The following weekend, Amanda organized a barbecue without telling me until the morning of the event. Her entire family arrived, along with several of her friends. I was introduced as Jason's dad rather than by name, and found myself marginalized in my own backyard. Retreating to the kitchen to refill the ice bucket, I overheard Amanda's father and brother discussing my possessions as if conducting an inventory. "That workshop in the garage has some serious tools," her brother said. "The table saw alone is worth a couple grand." "The dining set looks like real mahogany," her father replied. "Could fetch a nice price, but Amanda might want to keep it. The rest of the furniture is dated though. They'll probably replace most of it." "What about the old guy's stuff? Any valuables there?" "Amanda says most of it is junk, but apparently there's a coin collection and some vintage watches. She's already got her eye on those for college funds for the baby." I stood frozen, ice bucket in hand, as they casually discussed disposing of my life's possessions, things I'd worked decades to acquire, items that held precious memories of Martha and our life together. The breaking point came 3 days later. Jason had left early for a promising job interview in the city. Amanda approached me as I sat having my morning coffee, cradling Emma in her arms. Her expression was serious, businesslike. "Donnie, we need to talk about something important," she began, her tone clipped and formal. "Jason and I have been discussing the living situation, and we feel it's time for some changes." I set down my coffee cup, bracing myself. "What kind of changes?" "Emma needs a proper nursery as she grows," Amanda continued. "The guest room is too small, and it's on the wrong side of the house for proper sun exposure. We've decided that your bedroom would make an ideal space for her." "My bedroom?" I repeated, stunned by her directness despite having seen the renovation plans. "Yes, it's the largest room, has the best natural light, and the attached bathroom would be perfect for her as she gets older," Amanda explained as if discussing a simple furniture rearrangement. "We think it would be best for everyone if you looked into senior living options. There's a nice facility just 20 minutes from here that has apartments available." "And where would I stay until then?" I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. "Well, there's the small room in the basement," she suggested. "It would be temporary, of course, just until we find you the right place, for everyone's peace of mind." As she spoke the last words, a small, satisfied smirk played across her lips. It was the expression of someone who believed they'd won, who was savoring victory even before the battle was conceded. Something in me snapped. All the months of disrespect, manipulation, and gradual erasure crystallized into a moment of perfect clarity. "Honey," I said, my voice suddenly firm and clear, "this is my house." The smirk vanished from Amanda's face, replaced by an expression of shock. She clearly hadn't expected resistance. She'd become so accustomed to my acquiescence that my assertion caught her completely off guard. "Excuse me?" she stammered. "This is my house," I repeated. "I built it with my own hands. My name is on the deed. I have no intention of moving to the basement or anywhere else. If the guest room isn't suitable for Emma, perhaps you should be the ones looking for alternative arrangements." Amanda's face flushed red. Her mouth opened and closed several times before she found her voice. "How dare you? After everything we've done for you." "Done for me?" I couldn't help but laugh. "In my own home? Please, tell me what exactly you've done for me besides move my possessions to the garage and spread rumors about my mental state." The color drained from Amanda's face. She knew I'd discovered her tactics. For a moment, she stood speechless. Then, clutching Emma tighter, she turned and stormed upstairs. Seconds later, I heard her on the phone, her voice trembling with manufactured tears as she called Jason. "You need to come home right now," she was saying. "Your father just threatened to throw us out on the street. He's completely lost it. I don't feel safe here with Emma." Jason arrived home 40 minutes later, breathless and clearly agitated. He found Amanda in the living room, still putting on a show of being distraught. Emma, unaware of the drama, was happily playing in her bouncer. "What happened?" Jason demanded, looking between us. "Dad, did you threaten Amanda and Emma?" "Absolutely not," I said calmly. Amanda told me she and her family have decided I should move to the basement so she can convert my bedroom into a nursery for Emma. When I refused, she became upset. That's not true, Amanda interjected, tears streaming down her cheeks. I merely suggested we discuss future arrangements, and he flew into a rage, saying it was his house and we should leave if we didn't like it. I didn't raise my voice, I said firmly. But yes, I did remind her that this is my house. Because it seems that fact has been forgotten. Jason ran his hands through his hair, clearly stressed. Dad, we're family. This isn't about whose house it is. We're trying to make things work for everyone. Are we? I asked. Because from where I stand, it seems like I'm the only one expected to compromise. My belongings are being moved without permission. My space is shrinking daily. And apparently, there are renovation plans I wasn't consulted about. What renovation plans? Jason looked genuinely confused. I went to my room and returned with the blueprints I'd photographed with my phone. These were on the kitchen table 3 weeks ago, plans to demolish my bedroom wall and turn the space into an expanded nursery. Dated for 3 months from now. Jason took the phone, studying the images with a furrowed brow. I've never seen these before. Of course you haven't, Amanda cut in smoothly. Because they don't exist. He's making this up, Jason. This is exactly what I've been trying to tell you about his confusion. He's imagining things, misinterpreting conversations. I'm not confused or imagining anything, I stated flatly. And there's more. Your wife has been telling the neighbors I'm experiencing memory problems and might need specialized care. She's been systematically removing traces of your mother from this house. Her family was here last weekend discussing which of my possessions to keep or discard. Jason looked overwhelmed, his gaze darting between us as if trying to reconcile two completely different realities. Amanda, is any of this true? Amanda's tears instantly intensified. How can you even ask me that? I've been nothing but supportive. I've been taking care of your father and our baby while you're barely home. And this is the thanks I get? Wild accusations and threats? They're not wild accusations, I said. And I haven't threatened anyone. I simply refuse to be pushed out of my own bedroom. The conversation continued in this vein for nearly an hour, with Amanda twisting everything I said, interpreting my calmest statements as aggression, and positioning herself as the victim. Jason looked increasingly torn, unable to believe either that his wife would manipulate him so thoroughly or that his father would invent such detailed accusations. Finally, exhausted by the circular argument, Jason made a suggestion that revealed just how effective Amanda's campaign had been. Look, maybe we all need some space from each other, he said hesitantly. Things are obviously tense right now. Amanda immediately seized the opportunity. Your brother Frank has been asking you to visit for ages, hasn't he, Donnie? Maybe a few weeks away would give everyone a chance to cool down. I looked at my son, seeing the conflict in his eyes, and realized with a sinking feeling that he was actually considering his wife's suggestion. Despite everything I'd said, despite the evidence I'd shown him, he was still unable to see through her manipulation. I'm not leaving my home, Jason, I said quietly. But I think you and I need to have a conversation. Alone. Absolutely not, Amanda interjected. Anything you have to say to Jason you can say in front of me. We're a family. We can talk tomorrow, Dad, Jason said, clearly wanting to end the confrontation. I have to prepare for a second interview with that company from today anyway. They want me back tomorrow afternoon. As Jason retreated to the spare room they were using as an office, Amanda gave me a look of pure triumph. She believed she'd won this round, and perhaps she had. But I wasn't ready to concede the war. That evening I called Carol from the privacy of my car in the driveway, needing to speak with someone who would understand without judgment. She's painted me as confused, possibly dangerous, I explained after recounting the day's events, and the worst part is, Jason seems unable to see what's happening. It's like he's caught between us and can't bear to believe either possibility, so he's just shutting down. That's a common response when someone is being manipulated by a loved one, Carol said. It's too painful to acknowledge the deception, so denial becomes the path of least resistance. You need concrete evidence, Donnie, something Jason can't explain away. After hanging up, I sat in my car for a long time, considering my next move. I felt betrayed not just by Amanda, but by my own son. How could he not see what was happening right in front of him? How could he even consider sending me away from my own home? As I finally headed back inside, my phone pinged with an email notification. Opening it, I felt my blood run cold. It was a confirmation email for a power of attorney document filed with the county recorder's office, granting Jason extensive control over my assets, including the house. The document had apparently been digitally signed by me 3 weeks earlier. I had signed a limited power of attorney last year when I had knee surgery, allowing Jason to handle some financial matters while I was recuperating. But that document had expired after 6 months. This was something new, something I had never seen or approved. With shaking hands, I forwarded the email to Carol, adding a brief message. "I think they're trying to take my house legally now. I never signed this." Her response came quickly. "Call a lawyer first thing tomorrow. Don't confront them about this yet." I barely slept that night, my mind racing with questions and fears. Had Jason knowingly filed a fraudulent power of attorney? Or was Amanda manipulating him into this as well? Either way, the stakes had just escalated dramatically. This wasn't just about making me uncomfortable anymore. This was about legally taking ownership of my home. First thing the next morning, I contacted Patrick Sullivan, an attorney who had handled my business affairs for years. He agreed to see me immediately, recognizing the urgency in my voice. "This is serious, Donnie," Patrick said after reviewing the power of attorney document I'd forwarded to him. "Your signature appears to be digitally copied from the previous document you signed. That's fraud. Could my son have done this without realizing it was fraudulent?" I asked, still wanting to believe Jason wouldn't knowingly steal from me. "Possibly," Patrick conceded, "if someone prepared the document and just told him it was a renewal of the previous arrangement. But whoever submitted this knew exactly what they were doing. What can I do? I'll file an immediate revocation and alert the county that the document is fraudulent. But Donnie, you need to understand the seriousness of what's happening here. Someone is attempting to gain control of your assets through deception. I strongly advise documenting everything and considering legal action." "I don't want to sue my own son," I said firmly. "Then you need to have a very clear conversation with him, preferably with witnesses present," Patrick advised, "and you need to secure your important documents and valuables immediately." After leaving Patrick's office, I drove to Jason's workplace instead of going home. I knew his interview wasn't until that afternoon, and I needed to catch him alone, away from Amanda's influence. The receptionist at the advertising agency where he was interviewing recognized me from a photo on Jason's desk and let me wait in an empty conference room. When Jason arrived for preparation meetings, his surprise at seeing me quickly turned to concern. "Dad? What are you doing here? Is everything okay?" "No, son, everything is not okay," I said quietly. "We need to talk, and I need you to really listen to me." For the next hour, I laid everything out for Jason, showing him the fraudulent power of attorney, the blueprint photos, and emails from neighbors expressing concern about my confusion based on what Amanda had told them. "I don't understand," Jason kept saying, looking overwhelmed. "Why would she do all this?" "I think she wants the house, Jason," I said gently, "and she's been working very methodically to push me out and gain control." "But we've been struggling financially," Jason protested. "She's been so careful with our money, cutting expenses, telling me we need to save every penny." "Has she?" I asked. "Because her credit card statements have been coming to the house. She's been spending thousands on furniture deliveries, designer clothes, and jewelry." Jason's face paled. "That's impossible. She tells me we can barely afford diapers some weeks." "She's been lying to you, son," I said as gently as I could, "about a lot of things." Jason put his head in his hands, and for a moment I thought he might break down completely. When he looked up, his eyes were red but clear. "The power of attorney," he said. "She told me it was just a renewal of the medical one, that you'd agreed to it but couldn't sign in person because of your arthritis. I never would have." "Dad, I swear I didn't know." The pain and betrayal in his voice broke my heart. My son had been manipulated just as thoroughly as I had, perhaps even more so because he loved and trusted Amanda completely. "There's something else you should know," I said reluctantly. "I did some research after finding the power of attorney. Amanda has done this before." "What do you mean?" "I found her ex-boyfriend's family online. When I explained the situation, they weren't surprised. Apparently, she moved in with him and his mother after college, gradually pushed the mother into a nursing home claiming health concerns, then tried to convince him to sell the house and move across the country." Jason looked stunned. "She told me her last relationship ended because he cheated on her. According to his sister, he ended things after discovering Amanda had been systematically gaslighting his mother and lying about financial matters." Jason was silent for a long time, processing everything. Finally, he spoke with a determination I hadn't heard in months. "I need to see those credit card statements. And I need to talk to these people myself." Over the next week, Jason conducted his own investigation, careful not to alert Amanda to his suspicions. He discovered she had opened secret credit accounts in her name, spent nearly $20,000 on high-end furniture that was being stored in a rental unit, and had been in contact with real estate agents about future selling options for the house. Meanwhile, with Carol's help, I gathered additional evidence and developed a plan. We documented every instance of Amanda's manipulative behavior, collected statements from neighbors about what she'd told them regarding my mental state, and secured affidavits from her ex's family about her previous behavior pattern. Most shocking of all was Jason's discovery, through checking Amanda's email on their shared computer, that she had already been in contact with several assisted living facilities, representing herself as having power of attorney for my care decisions. She had even scheduled what she called a surprise moving party for the following weekend, where friends would help transition Donnie to his new senior apartment while he was supposedly out at lunch with Jason. When Jason showed me these emails, something in his expression had changed permanently. The scales had fallen from his eyes, and he was seeing Amanda clearly for the first time. "I'm so sorry, Dad," he said, his voice breaking. "I should have seen what was happening. I should have protected you." "You were being manipulated by someone you trusted completely," I reassured him. "That's not your fault." Together with Carol, Patrick, and my brother Frank, we developed a strategy to address the situation. Not through confrontation or accusations, but through a carefully orchestrated family meeting where the truth would be impossible to deny. "The key," Carol advised, "is not to attack Amanda directly. Present the evidence calmly, and give her the opportunity to explain. The truth will speak for itself." As the date for Amanda's planned moving party approached, we set our own plan in motion. Jason invited Amanda's parents to dinner at our house, saying he wanted to discuss some exciting future plans. Amanda was delighted, assuming this meant Jason was fully on board with removing me from the home. The stage was set for a conversation that would change everything. The evening of our planned family meeting arrived. Amanda had spent the day preparing an elaborate dinner, clearly anticipating a celebration of sorts. She was dressed in one of her expensive new outfits, her hair and makeup impeccable. She had no idea that her carefully constructed facade was about to crumble. Jason's demeanor had been carefully neutral all week, giving Amanda no reason to suspect he had discovered her deception. He'd even managed to convince her that he'd arranged for me to be out of the house during dinner, supposedly meeting with a financial advisor to discuss retirement options. Instead, at precisely 6:30, I entered the dining room where Amanda was putting the finishing touches on the table settings. Behind me were Carol, Patrick, and my brother Frank. Jason stood in the doorway to the kitchen, his expression resolute. "Donnie," Amanda exclaimed, clearly flustered, "I thought you had a meeting tonight." "Change of plans," I said calmly. "I hope you don't mind a few extra guests for dinner. My lawyer Patrick, my friend Carol, and of course you remember my brother Frank." Amanda's eyes darted to Jason, looking for explanation or support. Finding neither, her expression hardened slightly before she forced a smile. "Of course, everyone is welcome. Though I wish I'd had notice to prepare more food." "I'm sure we'll manage," Jason said. "My parents are running a bit late, but they should be here soon." For the next 20 minutes, Amanda maintained a brittle semblance of hospitality, making small talk while shooting questioning glances at Jason. When her parents finally arrived, the tension in the room was palpable. "Well, this is quite the gathering," Amanda's father remarked, sensing the atmosphere. "What's the special occasion?" "We need to have a family discussion," Jason began once everyone was seated. "About the future of this household and some decisions that have been made without proper consultation." Amanda's expression flickered between confusion and wariness. "Jason, what are you talking about?" "I think it's best if we lay everything out clearly," I said, nodding to Patrick, who opened his briefcase and removed a folder of documents. Over the next hour, we systematically presented the evidence of Amanda's manipulation and deception, the fraudulent power of attorney, the secret credit accounts, the communications with assisted living facilities, the emails planning my surprise move, the statements from neighbors about her claims regarding my mental state, and finally, the testimony from her ex-boyfriend's family about her previous pattern of behavior. Throughout the presentation, Amanda alternated between stunned silence and desperate denial. Her parents looked increasingly uncomfortable, exchanging glances that suggested this wasn't entirely surprising to them. "This is all a misunderstanding," Amanda insisted when Patrick finished. "I was just trying to help organize Donnie's affairs. He's been so forgetful lately, and I was worried about his ability to manage on his own." "Amanda," Jason said quietly, "I've seen the storage unit with $20,000 of furniture you've been hiding. I've read your emails about selling the house. I know you've been lying to me about our finances while maxing out secret credit cards." Amanda's facade finally cracked. Her eyes filled with genuine tears for the first time, not the calculated ones she'd used to manipulate Jason for months. "You don't understand," she said, her voice breaking. "I just wanted security for our family, for Emma. This house is perfect, and Donnie doesn't need all this space. It made sense for us to take over eventually. By lying? By manipulating everyone? By trying to make people think my father is mentally incompetent?" Jason's voice rose slightly before he controlled it again. Amanda turned to her parents for support, but her mother's expression was one of resignation rather than surprise. "Amanda," her mother said softly, "we talked about this after what happened with Michael and his mother. You promised it wouldn't happen again." The admission hung in the air like a physical presence. Amanda's father looked away, unable to meet anyone's eyes, while Amanda herself seemed to deflate, the pretense falling away completely. "What was the endgame here?" Jason asked, his voice tight with controlled emotion. "Were you planning to put my father in a home, sell his house, and spend the money on yourself?" "It wasn't like that," Amanda insisted, though her denial lacked conviction. "I just wanted what was best for Emma. A real home, financial security. By stealing from my father? By lying to me every day?" Jason shook his head in disbelief. "Do you even understand what you've done? The trust you've broken?" The conversation continued for hours, painful but necessary. Amanda's parents revealed this wasn't her first attempt at manipulating her way into property ownership. There had been incidents in college with roommates, the situation with her ex-boyfriend's mother, and apparently even an attempt to convince an elderly aunt to sign over a vacation property. "She needs help," her father finally admitted. "Professional help. We've tried to get her to see someone for years, but she always refuses." By the end of the evening, several things were clear. The relationship between Jason and Amanda was irrevocably damaged. Amanda's pattern of behavior was long-standing and wouldn't change without serious intervention. And most importantly, decisions needed to be made about the future of our living arrangement. "I want you to know," I said to Amanda as the evening wound down, "that despite everything, I'm willing to offer you a path forward." She looked at me with genuine surprise. "You can continue to live here with Jason and Emma under two non-negotiable conditions," I continued. "First, you begin therapy immediately to address these behaviors. Second, all financial matters related to this house remain under my control, with transparent oversight from Jason." "And if I refuse?" Amanda asked, a hint of her old defiance returning. "Then you're welcome to find alternative living arrangements," I said simply. "But Jason and Emma are always welcome in this home." The message was clear. I wasn't evicting my son and granddaughter, but I was establishing firm boundaries with Amanda. "I'll think about it," she said finally, her voice small. The days that followed were difficult. Amanda initially threatened to take Emma and leave, but Jason stood firm, making it clear that if she left, she would be leaving alone. Faced with losing both her husband and daughter, Amanda reluctantly agreed to begin therapy. For the first month, the atmosphere in the house remained tense and awkward. Amanda kept largely to herself, while Jason divided his time between caring for Emma and rebuilding his relationship with me. The trust between us was fragile but growing stronger as we processed what we'd both experienced at Amanda's hands. Jason found a good job at a smaller advertising agency, bringing much-needed financial stability and legitimate independence. Under Patrick's guidance, we established clear legal boundaries regarding the house and my other assets, ensuring nothing like the fraudulent power of attorney could happen again. 6 months passed, bringing gradual but significant changes. Amanda's therapy seemed to be having a genuine impact. Her therapist, specializing in personality disorders, worked with her on recognizing manipulative patterns and developing healthier relationship behaviors. The change wasn't immediate or complete, but it was noticeable. The first real breakthrough came when Amanda approached me one evening, Emma asleep in her arms. "I owe you an apology," she said, her voice catching. A real one, not just words. What I did was inexcusable. Yes, it was, I agreed, not making it easy for her. I understand if you can never forgive me, she continued. But I want you to know I'm truly working on myself. For Emma, for Jason, and because I don't want to be that person anymore. It wasn't an instant reconciliation, but it was a start. Over the following months, Amanda demonstrated consistent effort to change her behavior. She returned the furniture from the storage unit, paid down the secret credit cards, and most importantly, began showing genuine respect for boundaries. My friendship with Carol deepened into something more, bringing unexpected joy into my life. After several months of dating, she began spending more time at the house, her warmth and insight helping to heal the fractured family dynamic. Jason and Amanda entered couples counseling alongside Amanda's individual therapy. Their relationship would never be the same, but they were committed to rebuilding on a foundation of honesty for Emma's sake. As for my relationship with my granddaughter, it blossomed once the barriers Amanda had created were removed. I resumed our special morning times together, reading stories and singing lullabies. As she grew and began taking her first wobbly steps, it was often my hands she reached for, her delighted giggles filling the house with joy that had been missing for too long. 1 year after the confrontation, we celebrated Emma's first birthday in the backyard. The atmosphere was relaxed and genuine, so different from the tension-filled gatherings of the past. Amanda had made the cake herself, and as she handed me the first piece, our eyes met in a moment of quiet understanding. "Thank you," she said simply, "for giving me a chance to be better." I nodded, accepting both the cake and the sentiment behind it. We all deserve second chances. Family is worth fighting for. Later that evening, as I sat on the porch watching the sunset with Carol beside me and Emma playing with blocks at our feet, I reflected on the journey we'd all taken. The house around us was still standing, still filled with memories of Martha and our life together, now intermingled with new memories being created daily. The crisis had taught me something valuable about standing up for myself, while still leaving room for compassion and growth. It had shown Jason the importance of seeing clearly, even when the truth is painful. And for Amanda, it had been the wake-up call she needed to confront destructive patterns that had controlled her life for years. None of us were the same people we'd been a year ago. We carried scars from the experience, but also wisdom. The house that had almost torn us apart had become, once again, a true home, not because of its walls or rooms or the name on the deed, but because of the genuine care and respect that now filled it. As Emma looked up at me with Martha's eyes and Jason's smile, reaching her small hand toward mine, I felt a profound sense of peace. Some battles are worth fighting, not just for property or principle, but for the chance to build something that lasts beyond ourselves. Understanding, forgiveness, and love that grows stronger for having been tested. Have you ever had to stand your ground with family members while still keeping the door open for reconciliation? It's one of the hardest balancing acts we face in life, and I'd love to hear your thoughts or experiences in the comments. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real-life journeys through family challenges and triumphs. And if you know someone who might find comfort or guidance in this experience, please share it with them. Thank you for joining me on this journey. And remember that even our most difficult family moments can become pathways to deeper understanding if we face them with both courage and compassion.